This is episode 30 of the Get in My Garden podcast, and I'm Aaron Moskowitz. Today's guest is Dylan Martin, Vice President of the New Mexico Mycological Society. He's back to discuss recent results of research into how bees are using fungi to increase their immunity, ways we may soon be able to help our local bee populations with fungi, and what this means for us humans. Please subscribe to the podcast and leave positive reviews on iTunes and other podcasting apps, and share the episodes on social media within relevant groups. Good morning. Happy New Year.
Morning. Happy New Year.
Welcome back. A lot has been going on.
Yeah.
The world is a new world.
Yeah. New year. New world.
But yeah, I saw this great article. I think it was in the New York Times with Paul Stamets. We've all seen what he's doing with. Didn't he patent something for the bees? Or was that something else that he patented?
I know in the past I've listened to lectures that he's patented mycopesticides for carpenter ants. But yeah, the New York Times released an article at the end of the year in 2018 that reached a huge audience because it's the New York Times, and it was basically all about feeding bees mycelial extracts and helping their immunity. So that was awesome to read, and it was kind of just an overview of it. There's scientific reports that you can look at, but that was a good article, I thought.
When was it? So that came out last year?
I think so, or maybe this year.
Well, this year just started.
Or, well, yeah. No, so yeah, it was like in December.
Oh, okay, that article. That's the
but the
that's
study
the one
was
that I
done,
saw too.
I think, in April of last year.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So, I mean, he's famous, but I think he's going to be like in the history books for being famous, because if we are faced with the same troubles that some ecologists say with the bees, he's the one who seems to be able to find a solution for it, right?
Yeah, it was really exciting. Actually, a whole lot of people have reached out to me since that article was put out, just kind of, oh, did you see the article about the bees? Or, oh, I heard about this article with the bees, because, you know, people know I'm into mycology. And so, yeah, Paul Stamets is really helping a lot of people and a lot of things, and bees being super important. I'm excited to see where that goes, especially near the end of that article, talking about developing kind of a bee feeder that you know, kind of the bee version of a hummingbird feeder, but you would use the mycelial extracts instead of just sugar water. And that would be really cool if they did that, because then everybody could help the bees from their own backyard. And then
that's awesome.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And then hopefully attract them and see them too, right? And maybe enjoy looking at them.
Yeah.
Because sometimes
not kill them.
Exactly. So what exactly have you studied that at all? Like, what exactly is in that extract that he's giving them?
So the article goes into a little bit of it. Basically what happens is that he takes these two strains of mushrooms, the red reishi and the fomitarius, which is the birch polypore, I believe. Is actually the same mushroom that whenever they found the Iceman or whatever, the Neanderthal encased in ice, that human had this mushroom on him. Those two strains inoculated on some birch sawdust and then made into extracts were given to both field study bees, so bees that are outdoor in hives, and then bees in the lab that are in like little boxes or whatever. And so they're given those in dose solutions, and basically they were just looking to see if what they observed in nature, which bees go to mycelia in nature. That's kind of where this all started, was Paul Stamets observed his own honeybees going to his outdoor mushroom patches and collecting the exudates off of the mycelia, which is just like sugar sweat off the mycelia. And he also noticed it out in conifer forests where bears would scratch trees and mycelia would show up, or a fungal infection would show up, and bees would show up right when the mycelia was starting to grow, before a red polypore showed up or something. So it was something that they observed in nature and then wanted to take it into the lab and see if the bees were self-medicating, which they obviously were, and because I think in the article it said it was like a 45,000-fold reduction in deformed wing virus and like a 79-fold reduction in Lake Sinai virus, which are two really big viruses that bees have to deal with kind of from the varroa mite, which is also a huge detriment to bees. And so the varroa mite kind of spreads all these really bad viruses for the bees. And
interesting.
That is kind of helping the phenomena of colony collapse disorder, I think. So it's basically just live mycelial extracts in their sugar water.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard a lot about the varroa mite and all the damage that it's causing. I didn't know exactly that it was spreading the viruses.
I think it spreads some of the viruses. I don't think it's all of them, but it attributes to injecting viruses.
Do the strains of mushroom that you mentioned that are growing on the trees or whatnot that he was recognizing, are those poisonous to humans, or are they edible to humans?
No, those are also considered medicinal for humans. Actually, I think it's the tinder conch, not the birch polypore. I think those are different, but very similar. Both of those have antiviral properties for humans. And
I wonder if those are in his... Doesn't he have like a host defense product?
Yeah, I don't know about the tinder conch, but I know that the red reishi is in a lot of his products, and the red reishi's been used in Chinese medicine for thousands of years, so that's been around. And
there's one guy who's been using it for thousands of years, and he's still alive. Just kidding.
I know, I heard about that.
But there are, in Chinese medicine, they say, like, people live to be 250 years old. I wonder if they weren't that good at counting.
Yeah, probably not.
Maybe they had a knack for...
Or the years were like dog years, so they had like 7 to 1 or whatever.
Totally.
Yeah, I don't know. It was interesting looking at the scientific report of it. If you like dig deeper on the web, there was this whole thing of like, well, is it the mushrooms and the mycelia that's giving him all these immune boosting properties, or is it the birch sawdust? Is there stuff in the sawdust that's giving him medicinal properties? And so that was cool to look at. And most trees, especially birch trees, have some sort of endophytic or saprophytic fungi relationship already, and so there's different types of fungi in the tree itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, they did different studies with just an uninoculated birch sawdust and then stuff that was inoculated, and both of them had medicinal properties. So that was cool because it's not just the mushroom; it's the tree itself and other types of fungus or fungi. And so yeah,
that's amazing. So the relationship of bees and fungi is just very close, way more than we ever knew.
Yeah, it's pretty funny when one of the lectures he talks about, he's just like, Winnie the Pooh has been talking about this forever, and we don't even know the way of the bee, and it's a very simple thing that happens in nature, and not everybody pays attention to it. So,
well, it's only the last 50 years, really, as far as I can tell, that we really started to understand the way that fungi works within the roots, and with all of the mycorrhizal fungi. And the terminology better than I do, but
I'm glad that fungal knowledge is coming to the forefront with the bee knowledge, and those are like intersecting because the bees need help. Yeah, so that was really good. That was a really good article to come out because that reaches a huge audience, and it's just really interesting that fungus has this effect on bees, and I mean the varroa mite, which is a huge problem, is becoming resistant to all these synthetic pesticides, just like a lot of the insects we try to control with synthetic pesticides. So to find the solution with fungi is huge, I would say.
Absolutely. So we're saving the bees with fungi. Maybe we'll be saving ourselves too, because he is, I guess, Andrew Weil. He's always talked about the turkey tail. You talked about that last time.
That's a really researched mushroom.
Can you list some mushrooms that people could take in supplements? Like there are only a handful or so, right, that are available? Mm-hmm. That have been researched?
I mean, the turkey tail mushroom is probably the most researched for anti-cancer properties, and so it's really high in linoleic acids, and that is available usually at like your local co-op or something like that, or wellness store. Fungi Perfecti is Paul Stamets' company, and he's got a lot of good products. Honestly, because I am fairly healthy, I haven't felt immediate effects from medicinal mushroom products, but I know people that have. So I think it kind of depends on the person and depends on your condition as well. And there's been a lot of success stories with that. But you wanted to talk about bee immunity, which I looked a little. I mean, I'm not a bee expert or anything, but I'm just interested in bees, and I want to have honeybees at some point. And I mean, I think a big reason, or a big thing that people don't realize that I think was mentioned in that article, was that bees pollinate like 75% of our food, and so kind of need them.
Yeah, and we're on an unsustainable path with agriculture. So I think that the people in charge if there are actually very powerful people who affect policy, they know that we're on a very unsustainable path. So maybe they're plotting some other sort of recovery where their own products are going to save the day or something, but I think it's very treacherous. So do you think that the bees being involved with fungi, that affects some of the antiviral properties of honey that people talk about? I wonder if that might be...
I was looking into that. The nutrition is innately connected. The nutrition of the bees is innately connected to their immunity. Hence the pollen and the nectar that they collect that's made into the honey, and the propolis is, that is their immunity basically. And so if we're spraying pesticides on our gardens or things like that, then that's affecting the honey if you have managed beehives on your property, that's all getting into the honey. The fact that they're starting to put fungus with antiviral properties in the sugar solutions, I would say that it would translate over to the honey, and the honey would be medicinal at that point. But I don't know at what capacity, if it's how strong it is or anything, or if it is even available to us at that point, if the bees just take it all.
Yeah, I wonder.
Or if it's even translated into their honey at all. But I would assume so.
I wonder if that would be, I would assume so too, and maybe that, knowing that, we'll be able to strengthen the honey so that we can get those properties from the honey instead of
bees are already giving us medicinal, honey is medicinal on its own. And
yes.
And they obviously, this article kind of speaks to the respect that they're already interacting with fungi out in nature. I would assume that already has something to do with the properties in honey as is. Yeah.
What else are you interested in this new month?
Oh yeah, I don't know.
Fungi?
Just
anything
really
caught your attention?
I don't know. Just really been looking at the bee stuff because it's a huge deal, and I want to keep bees, and I want to know more about it, and I want to know what is it about these varroa mites that's so destructive to the bees, and what defenses do the bees have without fungi, which they have a lot of different, they have a bunch of different defenses just like we do, like an immune system, and like their exoskeleton helps pathogens, and they have this like parotrophic lining in their digestive system that helps, and then just like their cells can detect pathogens in their body just like us, and so it's just
they're amazing.
Yeah, they're amazing. I'm just amazed, and I just want to know more, and I want to be involved in more field studies with bees, because I was talking to a friend not too long ago, and they were just talking about how the genetics of bees are just weakening over time.
Is that right?
And so I hope that this can maybe reverse that. If bees are supplemented with lab-grown mycelia, then maybe the genetics will strengthen over time. That would be really nice.
My friends are keeping Russian bees, and they said that this particular strain that they have, they are very aggressive with...
Yeah, I heard those are intense.
Yeah, I don't really know how that works.
Like,
I asked them if they were on Facebook, those Russian bees.
Yeah.
But they crushed the varroa mites really quickly.
Interesting.
And dropped them to the bottom of the hive.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to source your bees, and it's crazy because honeybees they're not native to the U.S. There's that whole other... there's like 4,000 species of bees, so...
No honeybees?
No honeybees are native to...
So what would that mean?
America. So like native pollinators are something that we should consider. They are innately affected by our managed honeybee populations because they all visit the same flowers, and so depending on what you're giving your honeybees and what they have on them when they go visit flowers, that's affecting other pollinators that show up. Native bee population is huge for like little microbiomes and just local flora, especially the Southwest actually, and Utah included. There are so many like super specialized native bees that we don't even know about yet, and like that's really scary to think that we're gonna potentially destroy organisms that we don't even know about yet.
That's amazing.
So that's too bad.
Horrible.
But I hope that we can turn that around.
And if we are reducing bug populations in general, from what I heard from Suzanne Wainwright, who's considered the expert on bugs, she said that flies are huge pollinators, and like praying mantises.
Oh wow.
They don't pollinate, but they eat all the pollinators, like all the flies. So people put them in their gardens as a beneficial insect,
right?
But that eats all the pollinators. So bees pollinate our food, but they a lot of other insects pollinate everything else. So the whole thing could collapse if we don't curb our pesticide.
It's all interconnected, which I think I mentioned in the first podcast that I was on, was that fungi kind of reminds us that everything is interconnected, I mean, that is the model. That is the archetype of mycelia. Everything's connected. Yeah, I guess I don't even... Yeah, a lot of people don't even think about flies or things that aren't as attractive as bees.
Well, can you remind people the motto or the philosophy of the radical mycologist and the interconnectedness of all that? Because isn't that part of that philosophy too? How we act like fungi, at least culturally or intellectually.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong.
No, you're not wrong. Yeah, I mean, basically the first chapter of that, the foreword or whatever of that book delves into the dreams of kind of Peter McCoy and the archetype of mycelia infecting human population, if that's a good way to put it, or at least assisting us in working with each other in more symbiotic relationships. And I guess the mycelial archetype comes from lectures of Paul Stamets, and he has the whole mycology of consciousness talk and how we all are interconnected, and you see the mycelial archetype all over the place, like in tree roots and tree branches and our neurons and dark matter, and it's all the same thing.
It's the most clear version of fractal of what we have everywhere else.
And I think that we're seeing that model show up in business models and nonprofit organizations and permaculture designs and like all of that. The network archetype is huge. I mean, the internet, I think there was some sort of image of what the internet looks like, and that's also mycelial looking. Humans have interacted with fungi for thousands of years, and we should continue to do so.
We're stepping it up right now, obviously. The research it's interesting, but also there's so many people who are concerned about it. Like, even if it were just a capitalist response, there's going to be products out there that people are going to buy, you know, if that's the simplest way that they could be helping the bees, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that was something too, is like, how can people help the bees if they can't grow their own mycelia or get a hold of extracts? And I don't recommend, because I was thinking, like, how would I do that on my own? I wouldn't recommend, like, going and buying mycelial extracts and feeding it to your bees, because, I mean, if you ever tasted an extract, it's pretty alcohol-y, and I don't know if that would be good, and I don't know if just producing your own liquid culture and, like, feeding it to bees like that would work, if it has to go through the cultivation process of, like, brown rice to birch sawdust to extract to the bee, you know? And because I was wondering about that too, is like, what if you just have liquid culture, which is basically sugar water and fresh mycelial tissue, and you feed that to the bees? What would that do? You know, is that going to be more active? Is that going to hurt them? So that would be interesting too. But I think, the best way to help bees is to get a hold of your beekeeping association. Like, New Mexico has a beekeeping association, and I think they have their annual conference in February of this year, and so they're going to be talking about a whole range of things, especially pesticides, and then also look into, like, your native flowers and how you can plant more of them in your garden, and consider, like, what are bees visiting in the wild anyways. And so pollinator gardens are fun as far as, like, pollinating flowers down here, like the Apache plume flower, different gaillardias, pennistemen,
definitely
catnip. There's a bunch of them that bees will visit, and it's good to, like, do a wide array of flowers, because not every bee can visit every flower. Like, some of the flowers are tubular, and, like, only bumblebees can get in there. You know, some of them have longer proboscis or longer feeding parts, I guess.
Well, that's
flowers
awesome. I didn't know you were so interested in bees too.
Flowers need the bees, and bees need the flowers. So
cool. Well, my friend Carol at the White Duck Farm, who I had on the podcast earlier last year, she is, I believe, involved directly with that beekeeping association. Yeah. And she's involved in some sort of thing next year. Could
be the annual conference. It's February.
Yeah, I'm going to find out and have her talk.
It seems like a pretty big deal. I think it's like $30 to become a member. I don't know how much the conference is, but I was sort of looking into it, and there's, like, a lot of speakers, most that I have never heard of, but I'm sure they're big for people that know about them.
Well, I'll invite you out there next time I go, if you're available.
That would be cool, yeah.
Then you can meet her.
The more people collaborate, the better.
Yeah, she had some great ideas.
I know New Mexico State University has a lot of people that are interested in native pollinators. I'm trying to think of what else. Oh yeah, you mentioned biopesticides.
Oh yeah, so like
insecticides.
Because it's like the other side of it. You've got the fungi for humans that are so beneficial, and those that will kill us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so I was kind of looking at that too. I mean, people that are gardeners know about bioinsecticides and know that we already use different types of fungi to control pests, like BT, Bacillus thuringiensis. So there's different types of biopesticides. There's like pesticides that are specific to microorganisms, plant-derived pesticides, where plants will already produce pesticides, and they take that out, but kind of synthesize it or genetic. Yes, I guess it would be synthesize the plant compound and use it in mass. Biopesticides, if you create one or if you have one, I mean, they have to all be registered with the EPA. It's just a huge field of chemicals and things that are already happening in nature, but we just extract them and use them in mass. And so I think that field is growing huge, and it's going to be, it's already I'm sure in the millions of dollars, and so that industry is only going to grow.
It's interesting because on one hand you have people who just want everything to be symbiotic and natural, yet we always seem to go to
additives.
Yeah, but then with our biopesticides or bio whatever, there's always this kind of very hands-on, we're controlling how everything goes.
Yeah, we always have a hand in. We're just not a fan of pests, I think, is the deal.
That's
There's
right.
A lot of,
but we're
pests
also
are
big fans of taking control of things, thinking we know what we can do.
Yeah. If anybody's ever read Silent Spring, that's a very serious book about pesticides and the detriment that it's had on huge populations of humans and birds and everything. So, I hope that we're careful as we move forward, even with things that are helping bees like mycelial extracts.
Yeah.
Because you just never know what's going to happen and when things are going to change or how things are going to react or things like that. And it's also like tolerance level. How much can you actually tolerate without freaking out and buying a product and killing everything?
Right. Yeah, a lot of the biggest problems in society and throughout history were people doing what they thought was the right thing, and the blowback from that caused huge consequences.
Yeah.
So the biopesticides, there are certain things they are finding they can, well, at least with a negative insect invader or something, and they can just put the spores out there and then it'll kill them, right? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the research that Paul Stamets has done also, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely with the entomopathogenic fungi like cordyceps, that is going to take off, I think, because it's a fungus in nature that already infects insects and takes over their bodies and kills them and then spreads their spores. It kind of uses them as a vehicle to spread their spores. So
pretty amazing to look at the photos of that.
Yeah, it is. The ants with the with the fruit body right out of their head. And I think it was a strain of cordyceps is what Paul Stamets was using to help his carpenter ant infestation. And so, yeah, I kind of hope that takes off more. But then, are other insects going to be affected that you want around? I don't know.
That's right. Good question. Thank you.
Is
there anything else you want to talk about?
If you're even mildly interested in fungi or bees, hit up your local state association,
because it's totally on their radar right now. They're
everybody's
really
freaking out about it. And so the Beekeeping Association of New Mexico and the New Mexico Mycological Society reach out to both of those, which I just became the vice president of the Mycological Society the other day, so thank you. I'm excited about that, and so I'm excited to get more involved because we have monthly meetings and hopefully have people that know about bees come to the mycological meetings and talk about things. And so
perfect. That's so great. All right, well, thanks, Dylan. Great to see you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Please subscribe to the podcast and leave positive reviews on iTunes or other podcasting apps, and share the episodes on social media within relevant groups.